Jamie Welton is the eldest son and the heir to the Count of the Seldom Kingdom. He is a young boy of 9 years and is the love child of an illustrious family. His parents and younger sister love him dearly and can't get enough of his cuteness. His life is luxurious owing to the riches of his parents and everything is perfect. He wakes up one morning, bothered by a bad dream that occurs over and over. 66,666 years ago, there lived a legendary magician named Diablo Volpir. He was so powerful that no one could stand against him, not even the gods. So, the 12 gods decide to team up and face him. Even then, they cannot gather the strength needed to kill him. The wizard falls into the void. There is nothing but darkness surrounding him and all the stars are too far to notice their light. He still looks like a young man despite his accomplishments. There is a luminous ball of divine energy in front of him, the combined energy of the 12 gods. They are there to seal him forever. That is the only way they know of defeating him. But Diablo does not think that it is defeat. If it was anything, it was proof of his unbeatable strength that even the 12 gods together could not defeat him. He laughs at them, saying that it was funny how they called themselves gods and still lose to someone. He dares them to seal him. They would fail to keep him in confinement for eternity. Eventually, he would find a way out and erase them from existence. They would beg for a merciful death and he would deny it. But the gods have won for now and they are content with this victory. Diablo Volpir will go through eternal imprisonment and suffering. But eternity was just time to be passed until he found a way out. The prison he was sealed and developed a crack after 66,666 years. He had anticipated something like that. After all, he was not the greatest dark magician just for show. He escaped through that tiny crack and reincarnated as the son of the family of the Count Welton of Seldom Kingdom. It had been weird when he first realized the new form he was in was that of a child. He sees a couple fawning over him, telling him he is the cutest child in the world. When he tries to reply, he can only babble the sounds infants make. He realizes that he could not speak properly because his new body had not learnt to do so. The reincarnated dark magician was now called Jamie Welton. He was 9 years old and these 9 years he was loved and spoilt by his parents. They were rich and could afford everything for their kids. Furthermore, they were a bit crazy when it came to caring about their eldest son. Jamie sits by his bedside as he thinks about the troublesome family he was born into. It was convenient being here, but the people were annoying. He was not used to things like this. The dream was just his memories flashing back to him. He goes to the window thinking about the day that he was going to endure. He can even compare it to being imprisoned by the gods. His caretaker comes in to get him ready and he responds like a well-mannered child of a noble family. She is an old lady and is affectionate towards the little master whom she serves. She thinks that he is a really sweet child, but Jamie is just putting on an act. That was how he got through everything, and it was exhausting. His family is waiting for him at the breakfast table. He knows what is going to happen and he has no way to avoid it. He receives a warm greeting from his family, much warmer than he likes. His parents are still as dazzling as the first time he saw them. And he has an adorable little sister. Diablo sometimes wishes that he and Jamie were two separate people. Sometimes he makes the mistake of separating himself from Jamie in his mind. He thinks of his mother as Jamie's mother but quickly corrects himself. His mother is the only daughter of the prestigious Bell family. Her name is Sears Bell Welton. His father, Count Argino Welton, is the head of the Welton family and serves in the position of a count in the kingdom. He is one of the 5 sword masters in the kingdom and is highly revered for his skills. The parents that he found too overbearing were nothing but two people madly in love with each other and their children. This was the extent of their personalities. Jamie knew. They never missed a moment flirting with each other and it got irritating sometimes. Even right now, they were interested in each other and not the food. His sister Sarah Welton was like her parents too, over-affectionate and caring for her family. She loved her big brother and wanted to spend a lot of time with him. And while Jamie acted like he was cut from the same cloth, it was just acting. It would be shameful if the dark magician Diablo Volpir could not act to keep his secret from ordinary people. But even he did not have enough strength to do it day after day and not get tired. He comes back to his room tired after having breakfast. How did the others not get tired of being like this? That was what he often thought. Back when he was learning to speak, he was embarrassed for talking like children, and that was one of the worst things that happened to him in both his lifetimes. But there were perks to being a rich boy. He liked the library the most, where he could read a lot about the magic of the current era. He was really weak right now and needed the knowledge to get stronger if he wants revenge against the 12 gods. He had hoped that they would not have died yet, not before he killed them. A small insect-like monster comes to bite him and Jamie grabs him and smashes it with his bare hands. He says that this was the limit to his powers. This is when he shows his evil self, the one that was feared by even the gods. But that means nothing when he has no power. His speciality, dark magic, had disappeared from the world. It must be the work of the arrogant gods who wanted to prevent another man like Diablo from being created. They called him evil, but they were the ones who took advantage of their believers and feasted on their faith. They were still alive and he would fulfill his promise to them. Jamie is thinking about how much he will enjoy tormenting those gods when his caretaker calls him to read books with his mother. He has to put down his evil personality and act like an innocent boy again. His mother and sister are already there, waiting for him. He asks them what book they will be reading today, and both of them cling to him, calling him cute and precious. The book is a children's storybook called The Great Magician Heinz. Sears knows her son is fond of reading magic books and stories. When she finishes reading the story, Jamie says that he wants to be like Heinz too. He thinks to himself that he is Diablo Volpir, he doesn't need to be like anyone else. Sears praises him that he has already defeated 3 of his teachers. He was talented and would surely become a great magician in the future. But today, his father was going to invite the most powerful wizard in the kingdom to tutor him. Jamie thinks if his mother was probably mocking him, but he realizes that she is serious. He is about to leave for the library when his mother calls him to give her a hug. He has an act to maintain and he leaps at her like he wanted one too, but he wishes he did not have to do it. He was acting and it was just to play along. He did not have any evil schemes right now, but that did not mean he liked it. The books in the library are a lottery. Sometimes he finds something helpful, and other times it is nothing useful. Today he spent his time reading a book that was pretty useless. But it is time for lunch and he has to go back to eat. There is an unknown person on the way to the dining hall. A calm and wise old man clad in white and gold is standing there, admiring some artifact. He praises the taste and boldness of the count. But Jamie is not happy on finding a stranger in his house. The old man greets him nicely, but Jamie asks him about his identity and the purpose of his visit. The man in front of him is a monster in terms of mana. Jamie judges that he would be at least a 7th-class magician. But how did he come here? Was he an intruder or a guest? Nothing could be inferred from his behavior, and Jamie decides to confront him. Had he been Diablo, he would have shown the old man his place. But right now, he was just an above-average child. But that did not mean he would change the way he responded to things. He unleashes his mana to face the old man, who is impressed by what he sees. This further angers the child, who is irritated by the easygoing attitude of the old man. How dare some stranger comes to his house and tries to test him? He gets ready for an attack, and the old man is even more curious about the child. His mana capacity was wonderful, and his decision to attack an intruder was also something else. Jamie focuses his mana on his fingers and launches an attack. It hits the old man and there seems to be no effect at all. But he is thrilled. The old wizard cannot believe that a 9-year-old child could use such a powerful attack. But his test is not over yet. He shouts that it was his turn now. He launches a fire-based magic attack at Jamie, but it was not aimed at him. It would pass by his side without touching him. There was no need for him to react to it. The wizard is amazed yet again that the child did not even blink in the face of a powerful attack. But before anything else can happen, Argino jumps in to save his son. He slashes the magic attack away with his sword and stands in front of his son. He confronts the wizard and asks Jamie if he was hurt. Now is the right time to act like an innocent child. Jamie fakes sobbing to make his father angry at the magician. The old man notices the change in his behavior. Marks Linmel, the old magician, does not seem to mind the commotion. He laughs it off and tells the count that he is jealous of him. Argino is shocked and worries for the sanity of the old man. The two men talk about the child while drinking tea. Linmel's replies anger Argino, who is concerned about his son. He had asked him to come and tutor his son in the ways of magic, but the old man attacked him. It would have been dangerous if he had not been there. But the old magician does not take his grudge seriously. He tells the sword master that he does not know much about the abilities of his son. He had a rough idea, but since his discipline differed from magic, it could not be helped. Linmel tells Argino that he might have to deny his request of taking his son as a student. Marks Linmel was the strongest magician alive. He was a Class 8 great magician and there were no contenders for his title. Argino is worried that he might have overestimated his son. That would be the reason why he refused to take him as a student. But Linmel tells him that he is wrong. Jamie was going to be someone he could not handle. The boy could read the attacks of a Class 8 magician. He was certainly beyond extraordinary. He could tell that his attack would not hit him and did not react on purpose. His magic was as strong as a Class 3 or Class 4 magician without being taught. He was not a genius, he was a monster. Linmel is excited as he talks about Jamie. He realizes that there is no one in the world who could teach that boy. Given the proper resources and support, he would carve himself into the greatest magician the world had seen. He believes that Jamie could be the first magician to create a separate classification for himself. He might grow to be the first legendary Class 9 magician. Argino is left speechless by the deductions of the great magician. He is almost terrified of the potential his son had. What should he do? What was the right thing to do? He cannot find the answers. Linmel leaves him, saying that his son would take over the entire world like a storm. But Argino is too busy in his thoughts to hear anything. It is evening and Jamie is exhausted as he enters his room. His overprotective mother had heard that he was attacked by Linmal. It is easy to imagine how she reacted. She hugged him for hours and he was more exhausted from it than from his fight with the magician. But it was a good day. He fought a really strong magician. All the attributes of his magic were excellent. Not only was he powerful, he was experienced too. He would have been a respectable magician even in the mythical dynasty when the standards of power were much higher. But there was someone even more impressive than the great magician. His father, Count Argino, was even stronger than he previously thought. He was indeed worthy of being the father of the reborn dark magician. A voice shocks him as he is busy in his thoughts. The Marquess is sitting on his bed. He asks him what was thinking that made him smile like that. What was he thinking that he didn't notice a person in the room? Jamie is utterly shocked on finding him there. It was the first time he was shocked and was not putting on act. He asks the old man how did he enter his room, who just laughs, saying that even if he was really powerful, he was just a kid. He reveals that he teleported into his room. Teleportation was tricky and exhausting magic. It was not suitable for use over small distances. Jamie is even more impressed by the old man. He does not act like an innocent child in front of him. He is rude and condescending to him, but the old man finds it funny. He had realized the child acted when he was in presence of his family, but now he had confirmed it. But he looks at Jamie with regret, which he finds really out of character. Linmal tells him that he wished he was a bit stronger. Jamie cannot understand the actions or the motive of the man. Linmal gifts him a book, a magic tome. It was definitely more useful than any book he had read. He asks the old man why was he giving it to him. To that, the great wizard replies that the magic he uses is too old. He should learn new magic if he wanted to be great. It is humiliating for Jamie to hear that his magic was old. But it was not wrong. His magic was 66,666 years old. And the Marquess gifted him a book filled with a magic technique he had created himself. Jamie would be the first one to see it. He is excited to see what he will find. But before he can find anything in the book, the old magician bids him farewell. He tells him that he hopes to see him much stronger the next time they meet. With those words, he teleports out of the room. Jamie replies to the empty room that he will probably be stronger than the old man. But now it is time to read the book. It tells about mana breathing, the most common magic technique. It was efficient as you could intake the mana in the air and integrate it into your body, but it was limited by your lung capacity. The book had a different technique Linmal had discovered or invented. Jamie finds that the old magician was really amazing. The book was interesting and talked about things he had never read before. To feel every grain of mana in the air and absorb it through the skin in place of the nose, it was something different. But it was difficult and would take him some time to learn and master. Truly, this technique was new and amazing, but could it actually be done in a reasonable time? And he had found some drawbacks to it already. But even if no one could do it, there was a man who could. Diablo Volpir did not have the word impossible in his dictionary. He would master the amusing technique given in the book, but he would need some help with that. He releases the small amount of dark magic he has stored in his body, and it takes the shape of the ball-like monster he had crushed earlier. It was his familiar, a creature he could summon, and he was playing with it. He calls it Black, and it is an obedient pet. He asks it to break some of its mana into fine particles that could be absorbed through the skin. That would solve the first drawback of the technique. Black would make it easy for him to change mana particles into suitable size. But the second drawback is also not challenging for him. Any mana-absorbing technique ultimately relied on the user's heart and its capacity to store magic. His body must have a limit too, but what if he stored the mana he absorbed in different places? He could access it whenever he wanted. He would be unstoppable with the new ways. Jamie laughs at the astounding success he had just achieved. He starts practicing immediately. The next morning, his caretaker finds him in a weird state of meditation. His mana is swirling all around him. She gets worried and calls his father to come and see him. He is as shocked as her when he sees him. The book Linmal had given his son must have taught this technique to him. But did he always have such an immense talent? Marquess Linmal was right. He did not know the true genius of his son. He leaves him to the caretaker and tells her to only keep an eye on him and not disturb him. He walks back to his room thinking that his son must have gotten this talent from his mother. Her family had some prestigious magicians while his family had been one of the swordsman lines. Their son was expected to be greater than both the parents, but he had already shown that he would surpass them without ever reaching his full potential. He thinks to himself that maybe his son would someday become a class 9 magician. That would be the greatest achievement of his life. Jamie has finally mastered the mana-absorbing technique. He opens his eyes and analyzes his progress. His body was weak and he could only absorb power equal to a class 4 magician. But that was enough for now. He talks with Black, who is the only creature who knows his real identity. He says that he will be patient and let things happen in their time. He has to go and meet his father, and so he tells Black to become invisible. His father has a guest and they are talking about something important. Jamie hides and hears what they are talking about and cannot believe his ears. What did he hear? He will progress even further as he grows, but his story will start unraveling now. As his strength grows, so will his enemies, and soon he will come face to face with one of his arch-enemies, the 12 gods. What will happen when he meets one? How long will it take for the fateful encounter? And will he be able to defeat the gods in his second life? The answers will tell themselves as the story continues.